and then that male will follow her in and jump down on top and peck her head and kill her. So that's one of the things. I talk about house sparrows a little bit. You'll find out that I'm not a big fan. So competition for cavity nesters. We know that from monitor trails that tree swallows, of course, want the boxes. And if you take a line through the middle of the state, I think Joel Halloran pointed out years ago that the right side of the state has more ponds, lakes, streams, and water areas, and tends to have more tree swallow competition than if you take the left side of the state. I don't know if any of you have trails on the west side of Wisconsin, if you agree with that or not, but from his data, he kind of found that seemed to make sense. Then we got the starling, which like I said, we pretty much eliminated that by the size of the hole. I don't think I've ever had a starling in a Bluebird box. I tell you, since I started monitoring kestrel boxes in 2012, now I hate starlings as much as I do house sparrows because, boy, they're really a problem when you try to get kestrels. And then chickadees, whenever I find the chickadee starting to build that nest with that really fine mossy green material in the bottom of the box, if I can, I immediately put a reducer hole of 1 1/8 inch over the front of the box. And that eliminates any larger bird that can get in a 1 1/2 inch hole from taking over that box on the chickadees. Because I really like having chickadees too. And then once the chickadees, they only nest once per season, so once they're done, then I remove that hole. And the second part of the season, I usually get a bluebird or a tree swallow in that box. And then I get to see all these little chickadees that grow up into little mini adults and stuff. And of course, the house wren, we know from the study that they can be stinkers. In my backyard in the city of Madison, I don't mind having wrens come in. They usually follow the chickadees in the nest box. And then I get a pair of wrens, or maybe they have 2 broods even. But on my bluebird trails, I try to put my boxes so that I don't have much wren activity, but I kind of find that we used to say that put the box about 30 or 40 yards away from the nearest tree or shrub, and the wrens won't come out. Darn thing is, the wrens don't read, and they don't follow that advice. I've had boxes really out in the middle of the open, and I go and it's full of sticks. So sometimes it's a dummy nest, but
territorial.
Yeah, it is. It's not necessarily that they want to have a complete nest in there, but a lot of times those male wrens think if I get a couple sticks in this box and there's another female besides the one I'm already nesting with, he'll try and get another female in there, or he just doesn't want anything else nesting around his territory.
While they're throwing sticks in, you have anything against getting rid of the sticks?
Well, if it's almost like a completed nest, I think we used to say wait about 2 visits, and then if there's nothing more besides just those sticks that claim the box, we call that a dummy nest, then we can remove that and try and get rid of them that way. But we don't want people removing wren nests if they're developing to a point where they're going to lay eggs and stuff. Again, we don't want native birds to be sacrificed for the bluebirds. And a lot of times, if you remove a wren nest and bluebirds try to nest, those wrens can come back right away and break the eggs on you. So it's better to have that box positioned so that you don't have the wren problem if you can. So, yeah, here's the #1 problem that I see today. And I noticed that in the silent auction that we have 3 sparrow traps, feeder traps back there. And I know that those work really well. Several people here told me that they had used them. You can catch a lot of house sparrows at a time. Not exactly what I would want to do. A few times that I've had trouble with house sparrows, I've used a banner trap, and that's very effective. So anyway, it's a non-native species. It's not protected by law. They are difficult to get rid of. In the early days, I used to just pull their nest out, and all through the month of May, you're pulling nest material out. And then maybe in early June or later, it might finally get frustrated and leave. But then you lost the whole first part of the nesting season that a bluebird could have been using that box. So it's kind of better to either move the box or get rid of the sparrow, whatever you want to do with it. It adapts to almost any habitat, usually around buildings or farms or homes where people feed sparrows during the winter, and then they put up a nest box. Well, of course, you're going to get house sparrows in the box right away. They do destroy bluebird eggs, and they do kill adults, we know that. And if you do have sparrows around and you have a box, don't feed them. They just will be a problem for you. And as soon as you have one pair, you're going to have 6 pair in no time. So one of the things that I found effective against feeding house sparrows, if you want to put out seed that your songbirds like during the winter, is, and you got to be careful with this, and I forgot to put a picture of it in, but you take a little 3 or 4 inch piece of fishing line, monofilament fishing line, and you tie that on any bird feeder, on the stem of a tube feeder. If it's a hopper feeder, just tape it by either where they hop on the tray or put it down from the roof. A couple pieces, doesn't take a lot. And for some reason, house sparrows will not go to that feeder. Native birds don't care. I have goldfinches, I have pine siskins, house finches, they all go on tube feeders. They don't care about it. And sometimes that after about a year or so, the fishing line kind of loses its effect. And all of a sudden I might see a couple house sparrows on there. Unfortunately, the guy behind me, he feeds mixed wild bird seed from Walmart or Menards, cracked corn and millet. And I counted one time, he has 60 house sparrows that just hang around right over the bushes behind me. And of course they come over to use the bird bath in the summer and stuff. But when I see one of those on my feeder, I just take the old fishing line off, cut a little piece. Doesn't matter what strength it is, just so it's monofilament, not the braided string type. But somebody told me they didn't have fishing line and they just hung some string or some wire down, and the sparrows still didn't go to it. So where did I get this idea from? I read about it in a Pennsylvania newsletter many years ago, and they claimed you could put it on a bluebird house in the front, and the house sparrows wouldn't go in the bluebird nest. We did a study on this, BRAW did it many years ago. Some of you longtime members probably remember this, but you hang a line down with a bolt on it or something in front of the box, and it's supposed to keep the house sparrow away. Well, the wind blows the thing up on the roof, or blows it off, or doesn't stay on. I found that the house sparrows fly right past it. I think Kent Hall did a big study up in the central part of the state, and he found that it didn't work on bluebird houses. But I looked outside one day, and I had a sunflower feeder out in my backyard. And there were about 12 house sparrows that were eating sunflower seed, which isn't typical. I don't find them to eat sunflower seed that often. And I thought, well, Pennsylvania had this fishing line idea. And at the time I dabbled in fishing a little bit. I was terrible at it. So I used a fishing line on this little wired tube feeder thing and put a couple pieces on, not overdoing it. You don't want to have a real long spool of it. You don't want your native birds getting caught in it. You don't want mourning doves hanging from it. Just a little piece. And I noticed the house sparrows fly up to it and hover, and they went back to the trees. And then I noticed the cardinals coming in and starting to feed, and the house finches and stuff. And I thought, wow, this really works great. So when I worked at Wild Birds Unlimited in Madison, and people came in and complained about house sparrows, I said, well, don't change the seed, just put out some fishing line, showed them how to do it. And a lot of people came back in and said it worked 100% right away. I have had a couple people throughout the state now that emailed me and said they tried it and it didn't work. And I don't know what they're doing wrong. But when I lived in Stoughton, I did it, worked fine. I live in Madison, I do it, and it works fine. When I do this talk, and I talk about that, after I'm done, people come up to me and ask questions later. That's what they ask me about. Is, how do you do this with house sparrows? The other thing I do is, if I don't want to do the fishing line thing, I just feed safflower and Niger seed. And those are two seeds that you're really not likely to see house sparrows go after, except now in Madison, I noticed that if I didn't have it on my Niger feeder, those darn house sparrows from the guy that feed the crappy seed, they decided I had upgraded seed that's more expensive, and they did come over. But I just put the fishing line on, just a little bit, and they left. They'll feed on the ground, they'll do that, and they'll go to the bird baths and stuff, but they will not come on your feeders. If you want to try it, just give it a shot, and then let me know by email or something if it worked for you or not. So let's go to predator guards. We talked about how raccoons, squirrels, chipmunks, or whatever, I don't know, a lot of different things, cats, I guess, is what Knoll Guard was developed for. But I had the trail at Kegonsa State Park for about 10 years, and I never had a predator guard. I used metal poles. And then one year, the park decided to expand the campground in one area. Actually, both campgrounds, I think they expanded. And the trails that I had ended up being closer to the campgrounds because of the expansion. And then I found out that one of the favorite things for the campers to do in the summer was to feed the raccoons marshmallows when they were making s'mores. And the raccoons associated the food with the human scent. And it was late June one day, I went out to check my trail, and 9 boxes were raided. You could tell that raccoon just went following my footsteps and the smell. And it took out 7 tree swallow nests and 2 bluebird nests. One had chicks and the other one had eggs in it. So I went out right away and put on these Knoll guards. And I haven't had a problem since. It just seems like they leave the boxes alone. So to me, the Knoll guards work really well.
How long is that Knoll guard from the house out?
How the depth of it? I think it's 5.5, 6 inches.
4.5 is the normal.
Okay, I think mine might be 5. But we've done some different things with that too, because I know Dave had some problems with raccoons being able to figure out how to get into there. And he's come up with some different ideas on making it a little bit smaller, narrower, and putting a wooden platform on it, underneath on the bottom part. The other thing is to put a baffle on a pole. A lot of bluebird societies will say if you can stop them from getting to the box, that's the best thing. And to put a cone baffle or a tube baffle like that, that's a good idea to do that too. Or you can do both. If you're afraid that a raccoon might shimmy up past that smoke stack type thing to get to the box. But I've had them actually rip the roof off of boxes too to get in there. So you can't be 100% all the time, but at least something to protect the birds, the eggs or the chicks. And just to show you that bluebirds do use the new ports that you put on the box. I happened to photograph this one right after I put the box on. I have had some hens that don't like that wire, and they'll actually line that whole bottom of the Knoll guard with grass. And then they hop on that to hop in. But I also found that tree swallows, chickadees, and house wrens readily use the box. The theory used to, when they came out with this, they would say wait until, take them off when you don't need them. And then when the bluebirds nest and lay 1 egg, then you're supposed to put it on there because they're committed to the box, and then they'll hop right in. But that's a lot of removing every year and putting them back on so I just leave them on year round, and the bluebirds, and any of the birds, they just come in and they just hop right in. It doesn't seem to be anything like they don't use the box without one or whatever. They all have to do with this. They land on it and they use it.
That doesn't affect house squirrels?
No, unfortunately, no. Yeah, I know there's a lot of people that say there's ways to put things on the front of boxes to keep house sparrows out, but it's a 1.5 inch hole, or 1.25 inch even. Those house sparrows will figure out a way to get in there. And you notice we do have a tag on the box that tells people that the box is monitored and that I'm the person doing it, so. Oh, sorry. I do put a tag on the box to let people know that I'm the one that's monitoring it. And do I have to start all over again, or Pardon? Okay. He asked if the Knoll guard prevents house sparrows at all, and it doesn't. So it's meant to keep mammal-type birds out, or critters out, not the other competitive birds.
With hanging of fishing, did anybody ever hang a fishing line over that? The house sparrows out, seeing that?
I've tried everything. I put fishing line all around the entrance, all around the roof where the male likes to sit. I put it on the knoll guards, and I think that their drive to reproduce is stronger than their hatred of fishing line. But it works really good on bird feeders, I'll tell you. It's a way to keep them up. And you're going to save hundreds of dollars if you have house sparrows that are coming to your feeder. You can just send it directly to me, that's fine. Okay, so as far as bluebirds go, when I worked at Wild Birds Unlimited, we sold a lot of mealworms. Live ones during the winter and summer, and freeze-dried ones during the winter when you couldn't put out live ones. And people just really seemed to enjoy putting them out. There was even a woman down by Dodgeville, I think, that she opened her patio door and she put the mealworms on the deck closer and closer and closer. And then she actually put the mealworms 3 feet inside of her patio door on the dining room floor. And sure enough, those bluebirds came in and ate the mealworms and flew out. I don't recommend that myself, but but people sent me photos of their young bluebirds and stuff. And bluebirds are just like robins. Robins are bathing all the time if they have a bird bath. And these little bluebird chicks found this bird bath, and Janice Merritt got a nice photo of it. And I just love that shot. And then the other one is Lynn Dodge has this tray, and she puts the mealworms in that nice blue tray. And the parent birds were so smart. Instead of trying to find them, the food for the birds, they said, "Here, just come over here. This lady's going to give us free food for you."
Babysitting.
Is that Lynn waving to me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here I spend $600 on mealworms.
Oh. Yeah. I know. I know Christine Vaughn is here today too. She used to raise mealworms. If you want to know how to do it and how it can get out of hand fast, you'll have a refrigerator full of cartons of mealworms if you try to propagate them yourself. I know that. She showed me one time. But her aunt, I think, was the one who started doing that, right? I forgot her name now, but...
Joan Lichty.
Yeah, Joan Lichty. She was with the society for a long time from Watertown. And the Lichtys are really big on promoting bluebirds, mealworms, and also wood ducks and stuff. So, yeah, that's great. $600. Man. That's how much you'll save not feeding house sparrows. My address is in the newsletter. Yeah.
I was going to say it's a little reasonable way to get mealworms. What I've done over the years is send some rainbow mealworms to California. Because I think I spent $10 on 3,000. I put them in a bin and I raised them myself to actually turn it to the people to lay eggs. And he makes me get rid of them in the fall.
Okay.
But I remember the last 5 years that I lived out there. The bluebirds did not want to leave to go south on the migration trails, and they left and they came back after a couple of months.
Oh, well.
They didn't want to go at all. I was making them something called Bluebird Banquet, which from a lady named Linda Janella from the North American Bluebird Society. And if they want to look that up on Google, it's a really neat recipe with peanut butter and cornmeal and lime and mealworms.
How do they taste on toast and jam? In other parts of the world, they do eat bugs on food. I wouldn't try mealworms though. The freeze-dried ones, I believe if you get into the freeze-dried ones, they recommend that you coat them with a calcium powder or something, I think, to give them the food nutrients that the bluebirds need if you're doing that type of thing. Because the freeze-dried ones by themselves are just not loaded with the nutrients that the live ones have. Okay, so when I go around the state, I do find things that I call the Hall of Shame.
Oh, my.
And I think I've had this in the newsletter before, but down south of Stoughton, for about 15 years, there's been that like this. And it's not that a bird won't use it, it's, likely they will. No predator guard, and the nest would be tucked down here. I finally went by this year and saw that they righted the box. It's the same box, but somebody decided to put it up and put a nail in it, so, and then they put a driveway right in front of it, so. All right, then I was checking osprey up by Fox Lake one time. They were going by the golf course, and there was a box there that tipped upside down, and it has a thrush in it, which a bluebird is in the thrush family, but we got the wrong thrush. We got a robin in there, not a bluebird.